An alarming 90% of South Africa's largest dams are not compliant with the safety evaluation standards as infrastructure continues to deteriorate, posing serious risks for dam failures. According to a report presented in Parliament by the Department of Water and Sanitation, this follows the wall collapse of the Paardekraal Dam in the Rustenburg area that's in the northwest. Let's get more detail now as to what the picture looks like nationwide, and we speak to Mr. Sputnik Ratau. He is the spokesperson for the Department of Water and Sanitation. Mr. Ratau, thank you very much for your time. Paint a picture for us as to what it is that you are talking about when you say 90% of the dams in South Africa are not compliant with the safety evaluation standards.
Good morning, Oli, and good morning to the viewers as well. I think it is important to put perspective to this conversation, that the presentation that we made to the portfolio committee was looking at the state-owned dams that are under the Department of Water and Sanitation, and also it was looking at potentially the biggest dams out of the 323 that we are responsible for. And of all those dams, there is also how we then categorize those dams in terms of size particularly, as well as what we call the hazard potential rating. That is part of what we look at and part of how we categorize these dams. What do we mean by that? Size obviously is very clear. It is about how big that dam is, how much capacity does it have. As in the hazard potential rating, it is about what is the potential for damage. And in that damage, we also include the potential for loss of lives and livelihoods. And therefore, that is how we rate them. And we were looking at, as I was saying, basically the 286 that are within those three categories. But what we were talking about is how is it that we are looking at the matter of dam safety, working together with infrastructure management. And we were looking particularly at the reporting of the potential, if any, of what might happen if damage happens to those dams. And these reports are expected once every 5 years to the Dam Safety Office from Infrastructure Management. But we think that the regulations also allow for the DG, depending on the state of the dams, to be able to increase that reporting timeline to 10 years.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that is what we were looking at. And then maybe just to bring clarity as well is that in that analysis as well, in what we were looking at, is also a matter of how we then simulate dam break what we call dam break analysis as to what can happen if that dam breaks. So the issue of non-compliance refers particularly to the appointment of what we call the approved professional provider that will, because of that lack of capacity in infrastructure management for that function, then we must have those approved professional providers appointed by infrastructure management to be able to ensure that those required reports are in the hands of Dam Safety Office timeously and within that period that we are looking at.
Yeah, because of time, Mr. Ratau, we're not going to have more to talk about here, but let's quickly touch on the potential damage that you highlighted earlier. So as a result of these safety evaluation standards not being made or not being met, what is the potential damage and therefore the interventions that ought to be carried out?
One thing we must put out very strongly is that even in the situation that we are talking about, the issue of looking at the safety of the dams and them either failing or not is something that is part of our everyday work as a department. And we can categorically put it out that all the dams that we are responsible for are safe. They have been able to be safe for the period that we are in and longer, but also we are working very closely with infrastructure management to make sure that we put back into line those things that need to be in line, so that it does not give an impression that the actual infrastructure is at risk, which is not the case.
So how close are we to that infrastructure damage?
We are not at any way closer to anything. We are as safe as safe can be.
All right, Sputnik Ratau, let's leave that conversation there for the time being. He speaks for the Department of Water and Sanitation. Well,